Coming soon to own on
YouTube and Twitch. Could Homelander beat the Immortal? As you know, the new season of Invincible is coming out in like 20 days. It's March already. And I think the final season of The Boys is coming out later in the year. With that being said, we all excited for that shit. Mark gonna finally stop holding back. A lot of shit gonna happen. But respectfully, there's no way in hell Homelander is beating the Immortals' ass. I get these two are like, they're both they're two sides of the same ass cheek, but you know, left versus right ass cheek. But not Homelander, Immortal has been in the game for thousands of years fighting before he ran into Viltrumites. He is dog walking the fuck out of Homelander. Just like respectfully though, very much respectfully. He's beating Homelander's ass. Like Homelander don't even got hands for real. Anytime he fights niggas, he expects Homelander fights people expecting to like not one punch them, but like just go through them. He doesn't expect niggas to be able to counter his shit. But like with the Immortal, he can like fight.
Alright, so I made a video a little while ago talking about could Homelander beat a Viltrumite, and a lot of the comments asked me to do the same thing, but with the Immortal, so here it is. Now, obviously, the Immortal is known for coming back to life after getting packed up, so for this, I won't be taking that into consideration. If you get smoked on, you lose. Now, even though the Immortal gets disrespected a lot, he's still a solid dude. It's just, he happens to live in a universe with a bunch of ridiculously overpowered characters, so that makes him look much weaker than he actually is. But let's not forget in Season 3 when the two time travelers had to come pick up Mark in the past just so he could defeat Immortal because Immortal had lost it and gone crazy, and he ruthlessly ruled Earth for centuries.
Told you, man, like, if the Immortal wanted to, bro. I don't even say that. That was about to be some propaganda right there. He asked, but he ain't that ass.
Think about that. Centuries. And no one on Earth could take him out. But the twins tell Mark that after Immortal personally took out 10 cities, people started to rebel against him. The twins also told Mark that they tried everything. They don't get too specific, but I assume they used more than just guns and knives. They probably used some serious explosives. Maybe they also built some advanced weapons like a ray gun, and that must not have worked either. The twins then tell Mark that since none of that worked, they built a time machine and started looking for solutions in the past. And when they came across Invincible fighting while they tried to steal the Declaration of Independence, they knew he was the one. He looked strong enough to take him out, which turned out to be true. He packed Immortal up, and I definitely can't show that, but this just shows how powerful Immortal is. Motherfuckers had to build a time machine to find a Viltrumite from the past.
Now, that was some dick suck like that. They had to go find Mark. You couldn't find that nigga any time before that. Like you had to go back that far. That's some dick
to bring
suck.
Immortal down because nothing else could. That's crazy. So yeah, Immortal's pretty legit. But Homelander's no joke either. Well, sorta. Stillwell told Butcher that Homelander has no weaknesses, and that there's not a weapon on Earth that hasn't been thrown at Homelander. They all failed.
There isn't a weapon on Earth that they haven't thrown at him. They've all failed.
And through the whole first season of The Boys, this made sense. He seemed like an unstoppable, if Superman had become evil type of monster. When he was looking for Translucent, the boys started freaking out, and then we got that tense scene where he interrogated Frenchie, and you're just holding your breath because Homelander could end everyone in 2 seconds. But then seasons 2, 3, and 4 came out. The sewer scene when Homelander confronted Butcher and the boys, and then got whacked by a bus, and then went MIA for like several minutes. He low-key got dog-walked by Soldier Boy and Butcher, who had only used Temp V a couple.
This is exactly what I mean, but like, Homelander fights like he supposed to punch through you. He not expecting a counter. He not expecting you to be strong enough to counter his shit.
Several minutes. He low-key got dog-walked.
Well, look, he didn't. Look, that nigga shocked.
By Soldier Boy and Butcher.
Look, he get his like no hands.
Who had only used Temp V a couple of times and was brand new to his powers. He got outworked by Queen Maeve at the end of season 3. And in season 4 when Huey was being a peeping Tom in the vents and Homelander somehow didn't hear him. Then he couldn't laser him. Then he couldn't catch him. And Huey somehow escaped without a scratch on him. This motherfucker is a fraud. But I can't take all of this into consideration because some of it is just blatantly bad and inconsistent writing. So I think the best thing to do is look at a couple of fight scenes for each character and look at how well they did and take into consideration how strong the opponent is to get a gauge on how a fight between the Immortal and Homelander would go. So let's first take a gander at Immortal's fight with Omni-Man in episode 7. Immortal is brought back to life by the Mauler twins and immediately goes after Omni-Man. Now, we all know that Omni-Man is levels ahead of Homelander. He's shown multiple times how he's just on a different level, like when he destroyed that whole Flaxen planet effortlessly. That shit was crazy. And yet, Immortal was able to land multiple juicers on him and actually draw blood. He was also able to take a few licks from Omni-Man. And let's remember.
See, look, peep how the difference between Homelander and Immortal fight. Immortal's fighting this nigga, planning on this nigga throwing counter punches, but he doesn't give a fuck. And he's tanking the counter punches.
Omni-Man just ate a multi-billion-dollar laser to the face, and all it did was cause a little nosebleed. So, Immortal drawing blood is pretty significant. People argue this and say Omni-Man was actually tired from the house explosion that did nothing to him, the laser that caused him just a little nosebleed, and the kaiju that he only just started fighting. He's a Viltrumite. I'd argue
Nigga, tired don't make you bleed. The fuck? Tired don't make you bleed, nigga.
he's still pretty fresh. Immortal, on the other hand, just came back from being dead, so take from that as you will. This was a legit fight. Immortal landed multiple blows that did damage, and Omni-Man landed multiple as well, and Immortal was able to continue. He did eventually get packed up, but this was a good, competitive fight, despite what some people say. Let's also take a look at his first fight with the Mauler twins. The Mauler twins are also legit. They're not scrubs. They're obviously not Viltrumite level, but they can duke it out with some of the strongest characters, and they're also one of the most intelligent characters in the Invincible universe. And Immortal Loki clapped him up pretty easily in this fight. He was also able to characters in the Invincible universe.
I'm sorry, look at the hands. I mean, he's out there boxing shit.
Clapped him up pretty easily in this fight. He was also able to multitask and save multiple soldiers on his own while fighting off one of the twins. I also want to mention his technique. Immortal is old as hell, so he's probably had a lot of training in different martial arts. And his boxing actually looks really crispy. It's no Jerron Boots Ennis, but it's decent. Nice little slip, uppercut, straight down the pipe on southpaw. He also uses a nice little arm throw right here.
Some
so I
jujutsu?
wouldn't be surprised if he had some more Greco-Roman style wrestling moves in his bag, which would put him way ahead of Homelander, even if they were equal in terms of strength and durability.
That was called judo.
Actually, in most of Immortal's fights, he looks like he has some legit martial arts training, which doesn't surprise me considering he's been around for such a long time. Motherfucker was Abraham Lincoln. Alright, now let's look at Homelander.
I forgot that happened. The nigga was Abraham Lincoln.
The first thing people like to point out is how Homelander could laser Immortal and call it a day. Not true.
That shit not piercing him.
Homelander's laser vision really only works on characters who aren't that durable. Butcher on Temp V was able to eat it no problem. Soldier Boy was able to eat Butchers no problem. And Homelander and Butcher lasered each other, so their lasers seem pretty equal. Queen Maeve was also able to eat it, so really anyone who's decently durable can eat it. So Immortal would probably be fine. But for fights, we don't have much to go off of. Homelander is kind of just like that bully in movies that had a growth spurt earlier than everyone else, or was just older compared to little kids. And so he can pick on everyone even without any training because he's just so much bigger and stronger than everyone else. That's pretty much Homelander.
Blow A train.
All right. We didn't have to add
He
that
hasn't
in
really
there.
faced anybody more powerful than him, but when he did face somebody similar to his level, Soldier Boy, it didn't go as well. Soldier Boy landed a few good licks, Homelander landed some back, and he kind of had Soldier Boy up against the ropes for a second, mainly because of the poor fight choreography. Why is Soldier Boy just sitting there and taking it? Homelander's a 6-inch sub's length away and Soldier Boy's hands and legs are free. Kick him in the nuts. Gouge him in the eyes.
Shit.
In this position, he could grab the back of Homelander's head, get him in a clinch and throw a knee up the middle and or a straight right hand, but instead, he just does nothing.
Man, I miss
People
Charles.
say, well, it's because they're both untrained, but Clark was untrained and yet he was kicking ass in Man of Steel against Kryptonians on his level, so no excuses. Then Butcher comes in and they kind of wipe the floor with Homelander for the most part, and from the fight, it's clear none of them know how to fight, so it's looking pretty good for my boy Immortal right now. Let's jump to episode 8 when Soldier Boy, Queen Maeve, and Butcher confronted Homelander. Soldier Boy was able to grab Homelander's face and hold him there while Maeve and Butcher came to help, and Soldier Boy kept him there while charging up to fry him. So yeah, that's embarrassing.
Embarrassing!
Wouldn't let that happen to me though.
Another fight to include would be when Queen Maeve beat his ass. Homelander for the first couple of minutes was going light, but after a while he actually started trying and was still getting dog walk for the most part. But you know what? Comparing an animated show to a live action show is never going to be
Two different
fair.
things.
So let's include the 8th episode of Diabolical. Apparently it's canon, so fuck it. Let's have a gander.
Really? I
In
didn't know that.
this episode, I personally think we actually get to see Homelander's power a little better. He knocks this chick back and wraps this metal railing around her with ease. This guy runs into Homelander and he's like a brick wall. The guy bounces off and breaks his nose, but keep in mind, these are just regular humans. He stumbles upon a bit of a situation and we see Homelander has some legit super speed and he runs around and disarms everyone. But this speed is probably equal to Immortal's. We've seen him move pretty fast, and also Homelander has never used this speed again. Some shit goes down and eventually Homelander starts fighting Black Noir. And Noir, without super speed, was able to evade Homelander for a little while. One thing led to another, and the chemical plant blew up in a massive explosion and Homelander was completely untouched. But so was Noir. and this random chick, so this doesn't help Homelander's case very much. A scene I forgot to mention but I feel is pretty important for Immortal is his fight with that Invincible variant during the Invincible War. I talked about this fight previously and how Immortal kinda got embarrassed by this variant, but I totally forgot that he was actually fighting this variant for a long while. The episode showed us earlier that they were fighting in the desert, so Immortal could have been holding it down and fighting this variant
so he
for
was holding
days.
it down
So
for
even
a
though Immortal recently
long
has been on a
time.
bit of a downslide, he's still a solid hero, and in my personal opinion, I think he would beat Homelander relatively easily. Immortal has
Yep.
held his own against much more powerful characters. He looks like he has actual training. He seems to be stronger and more durable, and win, lose, or draw, he puts everything on the line every time. Can't say the same for Homelander. When he heard Soulja Boy was alive, he was hallucinating him and was shaking in his boots.
My boy was seeing the boogeyman.
He's fought characters that I assume are much weaker than Immortal, and they were able to actually hurt him and get the best of him, so I think Immortal would take this fight pretty soundly. But that's just
Easily. Hey, that's my opinion too. We're on the same wavelength. I agree. Mortal would definitely win with like just off the sheer fact of how much experience he has alone. And just the fact that Homelander's character not really supposed to be, I wouldn't say hero, but this strong presence. Like he's the strongest in the verse, but he's not really supposed because like his character like is not supposed to be like the strongest guy, like the strongest entity, you know? But with that being said, let me know how y'all feel about that. Like, do y'all think Homelander should be able to beat the Immortal or vice versa? That being said, I'll see y'all boys later though.
Why you standing all by yourself? Those shoes are made for dancing with someone else. Why don't we move over to that empty space? I'll bet you $20, I'll put a smile on your face. I know a place where we can dance the night away. Maybe we could try to make the world's best slower. We could take our time.